Welcome to the West Ham Weekly on the West Ham Voice on Monday nights. I hope you all had a good weekend, and I know you didn't because of the results that came about at the London Stadium on Saturday. Pretty poor result, pretty poor performance. I gave my views, pretty downbeat. And, I usually don't like being downbeat, but I was pretty downbeat about the performance and the results, and suggested that quite possibly if performances like that continue, then Nuno may not have an awful lot long to go in terms of being the manager at West Ham United. And I also talked about briefly about Daniel Kretinsky, who in the 20 years at Sparta Prague, owning Sparta Prague, he's had 20 managers, which demonstrates that he's an impatient person and he wants results quickly. So with the news today that has come out suggesting that Nuno is part of the problem for such a slow transfer window, you start to wonder really if there's any element of truth in that, what exactly is going on. Is he the procrastinator extraordinaire? Does he procrastinate over everything? The way he manages the team, the way he does his tactics, and now the way he selects his players, transfers. I don't know if this story is true. I've got a big dose of skepticism about it. I'm not so certain that it really rings true. Mainly because of all the various stories that we've heard since the transfer window opened. That it was, we've heard so many scenarios. It was only going to be Nuno and his special agent George Mendes who were going to do the transfers, and then it was going to be Nuno and Mendes and Nils Koppen when he arrived. And none of them speak to the press, which is true. We don't actually know what's going on. I've got transfer stories I'm going to mention to you later, but God knows how much truth there is in them, even at this stage, with only 7-8 days to go before the transfer window shuts. And then it's all nothing to do with Nuno. And it was all down to Nils Koppen. So you're hearing different scenarios. And I think people are offering, I offer my opinion. I don't know what's going on. And with the greatest of respect to Alan Nixon, who's offered his opinion about it's all down to Nils Koppen and Nuno. Maybe he's right, maybe he's not. Now, the reason why I'm skeptical about that is because of what Nuno has said in various interviews with journalists when he's asked about press conferences and stuff like that. When he's asked about the transfer window, he says the club know who we want. We picked our targets. They need to go out and find them. So by that, it sounds to me like Nuno's already said, well, these are either the types of players I want or the specific players I want. That I don't know. Maybe it's a bit of both. I need a central defender, or I need Disasi, or I need a central attacking midfielder, or I need another name, and so on. So because he keeps repeating that, these are the players that we need, the club knows about who we need, makes me think that he's already put forward his requirements, his proposal. And so is he the one dithering, or is it just really difficult to do transfer business at this moment in time? And even more difficult now because we're in the Championship rather than the Premier League. Look how difficult. Up until this summer, the difficulties were always, I said this before, the difficulties were always sort of like pointed at David Sullivan. Well, David Sullivan is the one that's making a mess of the transfer window. But this transfer window that was meant to be transformative, this transfer window where it was all meant to be proper, a proper scouting system in place, Nils Koppen coming in, doing his data-driven analysis, etc., it really feels no different. Absolutely no different to any of the transfer windows that we've experienced over the past, how long? 6, 7, 8, 10 years. It just feels, and now it's beginning to feel a little bit more like previous transfer windows because we're running out of time. We need more players, and it's now beginning to look pretty random as to who we go for. And that some of the names that have popped up, it's like, what, again? And it's really surprising when a name pops up and it's made out to be the first time that we've been linked to a player. And all my memories like ingrained in so many of the specific names that we've repeated over and over and over again. And I just think to myself, well, how, I'll give you an example who I'm not going to talk about today, but I'm going to give you as a passing example. Enoch Pinnock, who at Brentford, who's now gone to another Premier League club. Hull, I think. I don't know. Someone's just signed him. But up until this morning, he was one of the main players that we were linked to. We were linked to him in January. And I think maybe we were linked to him back in last summer as well, but definitely in January. I think when we were looking for, actually it was January before we signed Axel Disasi. So when you get player names that pop up and you think to yourself, I've heard the name before. Oh yes, it's because we've been linked to him before. And it's made out as if like all of a sudden these are revolutionary players that we're all of a sudden for the first time we're being linked to it. And that's why I'm taking an awful lot of names with a pinch of salt. There's one I'm going to talk about who apparently is going to have a medical tomorrow. But again, a player that we've been linked to in the past as well. So is this whole thing about Nuno and Koppen, is it right? I think, and it's only my thoughts, I think it's a difficult market. And I know you're going to say, well, hang on a minute. Everybody else is finding it difficult as well. And if you just look at I mentioned this a few weeks back. If you look at the business in the championship transfer window, not an awful lot of business has been done until really the last week or two. And the same for West Ham. We finally brought in 3 players in the space of a week. We brought in, Mukasa, on loan out of nowhere. We brought in the striker Pirro, and all of it seems no different. Now we've got a bigger problem, haven't we? We've got a bigger problem in terms of our finances. We've got a problem where we've got to shift a hell of a lot of players on big money in order to make sure that we're financially stable and financially sound in order to be able to bring in these additional players. So we've got that double whammy where other teams don't seem to have that same problem. We're in debt, and we've got issues with players who want to leave but don't want to play, and that's what I'm going to talk about later on as well. That the whole scenario going on with all these players that keep being linked to elsewhere but have gone absolutely nowhere, and they're still on our payroll. So Nils Koppen has come into this situation, and he's got this situation where he's not only got to shift players out and get them off the wage bill, and we've done well. I'm not going to deny we've actually done pretty well. We've cleared a lot of the deadwood, and now, but there's still quite a bit left. I mean, the fact that we got rid of I was almost going to say Kilman there. With the fact that we got rid of Fulkrug last week was like, wow, someone's taken him on. And I know someone's going to say in the chat, he scored. I know he scored, but you can't worry about that. It's would he have done a job in the championship? No, didn't want to be here. I didn't want him here, and I'm glad he's gone. And good luck to him that he's scoring goals back in the German league. But we've still got other players that we need to get rid of. We've still got we've still got Alvarez and Todibo and players like that who we just don't know. We keep hearing stories about their going, but when you've got that problem, and at the same time looking for players like a left back at the moment, we don't know what's happening with youth. We don't know whether we need to go out there and buy ourselves a left back or whether he's going to stay. All these rumours, etc. It can't be easy. It can't be easy trying to juggle all these situations and trying to create a squad that's going to be good enough to get out of this championship. Does it look like at the moment that we're going to get out in the top 2? Absolutely not. Will we make the playoffs? Maybe. I don't know. But that might be the best we can expect at this moment in time. But it's difficult. So do I believe it's Nuno and Nils Koppen taking their time? I'm not so sure. Then this story went on to say, it's nothing to do with the boardroom. The boardroom said it was business as usual, and but business is just slow. I don't honestly know what to believe anymore. It's really difficult for me to bring you a show to tell you quite positively this is happening. This is definitely happening. And anyone that can claim that they know exactly what's happening, I'm afraid is telling porkies. to you, because it just seems really all confused. And we've got 8 days. It's 7 days. By the time this goes out, it's late Monday night. So it's 7 days to go before the transfer window shuts. Let's just hope by that time we've got the players that we need in. We know what we still need. I've mentioned it a million times. You know, we still need a central defender. We still need, potentially, depending on who leaves, we still need a left back. We still need maybe a right back. We still need a central attacking midfielder or a central holding midfielder, whichever you prefer to pick. We still need a winger with pace, and maybe, just maybe, we still need another striker. So there's a lot of holes to fill in this squad, and it's proving pretty difficult, and it's proving pretty tough. Now, I'm expecting us to do an awful lot of loan business. I'm expecting us to bring players in on loan. But even if we do that, we've got to pay their wages. So we've still got to clear our wage bill with all the players that we've got left. So what do I believe? The honest answer is I don't actually believe that it's Nils Koppen and Nuno holding up transfer business, because Nuno has made it very clear. This is who I need, or these, I've already told the board what I need. They've just got to go out there and do it. Nils Koppen, is he holding things up? I just think he's finding life a bit difficult. The poison chalice that's West Ham United transfer window. And all credit to him, because he did manage to bring players in over the last couple of weeks, which is fantastic. But there's a lot more to do. So is it because of the board? Now, it made me start to think maybe it's got nothing to do with the board. Now, I saw a throwaway comment, I think, on Twitter earlier today. Apparently, Daniel Kretinsky didn't pay Vanessa Gold the money in time. And I can't remember if I saw the 15th of June or the 15th of July as that deadline. And I sat there scratching my head, and I went looking back and going, well, hang on a minute. The news that Daniel Kretinsky was going to buy the Vanessa Gold shares only came out on the 13th of June, and they said that will be done within a couple of weeks. Now, there are people suggesting that Kretinsky is reneged on that deal, has sort of pulled out on that. And then you heard the story last week that he doesn't have the liquidity, he doesn't have the finances to do that. Now, I've said quite simply that the proof is going to be in the preemption process pudding. Because if Daniel Kretinsky enters that process, and I assume he has, because my understanding is the end of that first stage of that process happens around the 2nd of September, same day or the day after the transfer window shuts, conveniently or inconveniently. If he's entered that process, that means he's got money to spend. That means he's got the capital to buy into the gold shares. Now, I've gone through it. £80 million he offered for 16%, which was valuing the football club at £500 million, give or take, in order to match Staveley's offer, which is now making the club worth £600 million. He's now got to pay about £98 million for that 16%, and in total, he's got to match Staveley's offer of £100 million for all that all the shares, if he's the only one who's entered the preemption process. We know all this, so I didn't believe last week when the story came out that he didn't have money. I thought that was a whole load of tosh, and I still stick to that. If, however, he's not entered the preemption process, then you ask the question, well, what's going on? Maybe he wasn't serious after all. But I think he has entered it. I think we'll find out maybe at the end of the first stage as to what's going on, who's entered that process, and who's going to be bidding for the rest of the gold shares in the second stage of the preemption process. So we're waiting on that as well. But this thing about, I don't know where it came from. It must have been something that I don't normally go on Twitter. I really don't like Twitter. It's a cesspit. But when I do on occasion go on it, I'm not really reading very carefully. Sometimes I'll comment on things. Sometimes I'll spend an hour commenting on stuff, and then I won't be on there for God knows how long. But when I was scrolling through, I just saw it was fleeting. And when you try and go and find it, it was like, oh, where is it? Where's that comment? And who did it? Who raised the comment? But the comment was apparently he missed the deadline. He missed the deadline to pay Vanessa Gold the money for her shares, and that's why Vanessa Gold went to Amanda Staveley. Amanda Staveley have offered Vanessa Gold more money. That's why she went to Amanda Staveley. Before any deal was signed, sealed, and delivered between Kretinsky and Vanessa Gold, Staveley came in and said, "I'll offer you more." It was simple as that. now. Absolutely. Vanessa Gold has got every right to accept the biggest bid for her shares. Why not? It's her shares. She can sell them to who she wants. Well, within reason, because it's now going through the preemption process. But, she accepted an offer, which was a bigger offer than Daniel Kretinsky did. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine. But did he miss a deadline? I just don't know, is the honest truth. I've got no clue. I don't know where it came from. I don't know who mentioned it. I don't know how true it is. But I think it's a bit of just shit stirring, really. Shit stirring last week. We've had a lot of shit stirring, haven't we? Shit stirring last week that he didn't have the capital to buy the shares. Shit stirring that he's reneged on the deal. Shit stirring that he's lied to the fans. That was the other thing. He's lied to the fans, or that, waited until the 50,000 season tickets were sold, and all of a sudden nothing's happened in the transfer market, and everything's, and excuses are being made, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, the more shit stirring end of last week, when someone suggested out of the blue, as if it was brand new news, that David Sullivan was going to buy 13%, because, as I said, in the preemption process, every current shareholder is allowed a percentage of the 25% that the Gold family are selling. And all of a sudden, someone suggested Sullivan is buying his 13% share in stage one. No, he ain't. That's more shit stirring, and it's there to wind up the fan base. And boy, oh boy, as a fan base, do we get wound up. We really do. I do as well, but it just serves. When someone puts news out, especially when it's meant to be quite a creditable source, whether media or social media or whatever it is, when it's a credible source, you kind of tend to think, well, they can't be wrong. They've got to be right. But unfortunately, journalists are journalists, and they look for a sensation if there's no real story there. We got to be honest about it. And a lot of the stories that have come out over the shares have been quite sensationalist. Sullivan buying 13%. Kretinsky's skint. He hasn't got any money to buy the Gold shares, etc., etc. I guess what we're going to find out exactly what's going on is when the first stage of the preemption process is done and dusted, and then we know. Now there is a thing about a 15th of July, which is significant, because that was the date when we had to pay off the Barclays loan, the £40 million loan. So there's a significance there about some financials, and that is the only date that I can find, whether the 15th of June or 15th of July, that has any relevance to West Ham United and its finances. And it was the fact that we had to pay off, and we did pay off, the Barclays loan. Now that probably came from the sale of Fernandes, I would imagine, with the money that we earned from that. But otherwise, I think we're being led up the garden path by a lot of stories that are not really true, or have might sound true, but just slightly twisted in some ways. So I don't really know. Koppen and Nuno stalling on transfers after Nuno's already said he's given the board exactly what he needs. I think Koppen is just finding it difficult. When you think about it, I just think Koppen is finding it difficult. And of course, we don't have our beloved David Sullivan to save the day, to go to his agent mates going, I need to fill this hole and I need to fill that hole. What have you got? Give me any old shit that you've got, so we just get players into this squad. And thank God we don't have that. Thank God we don't have that. Because otherwise, this is what led us to being relegated, because the squad that we were building over the past few years have cost us a fortune and have got us relegated. So I don't actually believe all these stories that are coming out that Koppen is stalling and Nuno is stalling. Nuno has said what he wants. Koppen has gone out there and he's gone, oh, fuck. This is not easy in the Championship to bring players in. Not only because we've got to get rid of Deadwood and get the wage bill even lower than it currently is, but also because trying to buy players in the Championship, and we've been looking for, and that was another story that came out, isn't it, last week? Apparently, we're only looking for, players who are cast aside by the Premier League teams. We don't need players cast aside by Premier League teams. We need players who know how to play in the Championship, who can get us out of the Championship and hopefully promoted back into the Premier League. That's what we need. We don't need cast-offs. We don't need players that are no good in the Premier League, and it's just really frustrating, all of it. You can hear it, you can see it, you can hear it in my voice. It's all pretty frustrating at the moment. And it's not doing anyone any service when all these stories keep coming out telling us that this is happening and that's happening, when there's not a lot of evidence to sort of back it up. They're assumptions. There are people who are making assumptions, just like I've just done for the last 20 minutes talking about it. It's my view. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm trying to think logic. I try, not that I do it all the time, but I try and think logically. So what is it, is there a lot of meaning behind these stories? And I'm trying to come to some kind of conclusion. You may disagree with me, and that's absolutely fine. Right. I've talked a lot. There's 200 comments in the chat. I'm going to talk about our transfer business and also briefly about the game coming up on Tuesday night. So let's go all the way to the top. Sorry for my rant, 20-minute rant. It's quite cathartic. Stephen, good evening to you. Question, what do you think West Ham need in transfer window before it shuts? I've said it. Absolutely 100% we need a centre-back. I like Veltman. Now, you tell me, Veltman, right back or centre back? Because I keep getting confused. 1 minute I'm being told, no, he's a right back. And next minute I keep being told, no, he's a centre back. Well, thank God he can play in both positions. But I think we need a centre back without a shadow of a doubt. Did I not? Mic still on? We need a centre back without a shadow of a doubt. If the youth is going, we need a left back. Do we need a holding midfielder? Possibly, if the likes of Alvarez and Magassa are gone. So that's 3. Do we need another attacking midfielder? Possibly. But I like to see what Magassa can do, and I like to see what Engels can do when he's got a proper defensive midfielder behind him. So maybe, possibly, we absolutely need at least another winger in order to support or be backup to Solomon and or Bowen, and someone with pace. That winger has got to have pace. Many would argue we also need someone with pace in central midfield, and I wouldn't argue with that as well. And then do we need maybe another striker? Quite possibly. Do we need another goalkeeper? Quite possibly if Areola goes. But the story today is that Areola is happy to stay. Well, if Areola is happy to stay, get him in the bloody first team right now, because with the greatest of respect, Hermansen is not going to win us games. He's not, I don't give a damn about his good distribution. I just want a goalkeeper that knows how to save the bloody ball. And Areola, between the two of them, for me, is still the better goalkeeper. Foxes, what we need in transfer window is a miracle. Dean, good evening to you, mate. Dean, how are you, mate? Who is to blame will come down to what budget we have, if any, because if it turns out we're only in the market for loans, freebies and cheap punts, then the blame lays with those above wanting in. Be ready. I'm prepared. I've said it. I'm more than happy to get loan players and free players, so long as they're the right ones. You don't have to spend a fortune to get the right players in the championship. Fox's thing is, we just got no idea what's going on with the board or who's running things. David, good evening to you. We don't know for sure who's in charge. Sully looked at home with his feet up like everything is going to plan. Let's get that myth out of the way as well, shall we? I'm not happy, just like everybody else is not happy, that David Sullivan believes that he can just turn up at the stadium and everything is hunky-dory. Now, people have suggested, here we go again with the conspiracy theories, people are going, he's only turning up because he's still in charge. Of course he's still in charge. He's resigned from the board. When you resign from the board, that's it. You don't have an influence over what goes on. You can make it, as has been suggested, you can suggest that what's needed, and I've got no doubt at all, with his 38.8% ownership of the club, he's going to want to have his say. But he can only say it in the terms of with no power, no influence, no nothing. So he can shout from the sidelines, we need more players, and everyone will go, we totally agree with you. But he can't go out, just like I said earlier on, he can't go to his mate, Salthouse or Silky, and go, lads, come on, lads, get me a couple of players in. He can't do it. He hasn't got the power to do it. And his sons still go to games. And I mentioned a couple of months ago that his sons were still going to board meetings, is my understanding. And now there's a suggestion that Karim Varane, who he hired, and I got that wrong. I had a debate on Twitter again with someone where he said, Varane's didn't say he was the Sullivan stooge, but Varane was hired by Sullivan. I thought it was Kretinsky who hired Sullivan. I made a mistake. I got it wrong. and it was Sullivan who did. Now that people are suggesting that Varane is the insider for Sullivan. Sullivan, if he wants to know what's going on, has only got to ask. You know, he won't be able to go to the board meetings. He won't be able to sit there and make decisions. But Sullivan has only got to ask. He doesn't need insiders to tell him. You know, he's getting that information, and he's got a right as a shareholder. He's got a right to know what's going on. He needs to be informed. But it's the difference between being informed, being told what's going on, and actually having a decision to, you know, being part of the decision-making process is quite different. So yeah, we don't know who's in charge, but I can guarantee Sullivan's not having a say in transfers at this moment in time. Let's scroll down. Let's get some more people in tonight. Southampton 75, 6-4, the draw 12. Well, it can't be a draw. It's a cup game. So someone's got to win tomorrow night. Graham, good evening to you. Don't see much improving until this board nonsense is sorted out. I'm inclined to agree with you. Danny boy, I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mate. Let's get try and get as many different names as we can tonight. Colin, good evening to you. How long would you give Nuno? And regarding transfers, do you think we actually have the right man in Koppen? I'm not so sure, but at the end of the day, have we done our money? Have we not got money? I've already said about Koppen. I think Koppen is probably finding it pretty difficult. I think he's probably it's baptism of fire, I would say. With regards to Nuno, I did suggest after when I did the review that I think quite possibly if things keep going the way they do, and I even said not so much about, you know, drawing and losing games, but if we start winning and not winning convincingly, I mean proper, and I'm not talking about going out there and thumping every team in the championship. That's not how football works. But going out there and putting in good performances, if we're not doing that, I'll give him until maybe mid-October. Why mid-October? Because by that time, the whole issue with the board has been sorted out. The end of September will be the end of the second stage of the preemption process. So we will know by that time who's in charge of West Ham United Football Club and by how much. You know, has Daniel Kretinsky gone right ahead and bought as many shares as he can to get more shares, to be able to have more shares than Sullivan? If he does, and then with his mates that he sold that 2% to, you know, they'll have over 50% of the club. Then they'll have carte blanche to make whatever decisions they want to make. So, and then at that stage, if Nuno is still not performing, I think maybe October could be mid-October could be the first deadline we're looking at. Thank you, Stephen. Really appreciate it. If anyone's new to this channel, if you've yet to subscribe to the West Ham Voice, all you've got to do, if you enjoy the content, click on that QR code and become a subscriber. Costs nothing to subscribe. So thank you for that, Stephen. Colin again. I will only give Nuno up to the Watford game and not beyond. For the 2nd of September might be no more in terms of who might win the board fiasco. Well, it won't. We won't know on the 2nd of September. We will know the end of the first stage of the preemption process, and we'll make a pretty good guess as to who is likely to be in charge. But the whole boardroom thing won't finish until the end of September. Randy, good evening to you. Not to everyone saying hello to each other. Good evening to you, Twitchy Triggs. Bottom line, gold got offered more money and therefore null and voided everything. Most importantly, the transfer spend, it's a mess and all about survival. Yeah, she got offered more money. I think, you know, and as I said, it's absolutely fine. You get offered more money, it's your right to take it or to accept it. The only thing is, what that's done is it's triggered the preemption process, which is a legal process, which has got to happen. Now, if no one goes into the preemption process and leaves the shares open, the whole 25%, there'll be no second stage. If no one enters first stage, there'll be no second stage, and then Staveley can buy the 25% of the club. That'll be that. But if anyone enters the first stage of the preemption process, that automatically triggers the second stage. It's got to go through the second stage. And then it's going to be quite interesting to see how many more shares are going to be bought. Now, like I said, I've said it, and forgive me for repeating myself. The first stage, Sullivan is eligible for 13%. Kretinsky is eligible for 9%. Trip Smith, I think, was eligible for maybe 3%, something like that. And then the smaller percentages for the smaller shareholders. So whoever enters that first stage of the preemption process, they're then eligible to go into the second stage and buy whatever's left. The only thing I don't know about second stage, and I have been asked the question, I haven't been able to get an answer, is let's say, for example, Kretinsky's the only one that goes into stage one and he buys his 9%. That means of the 25% left, of the 25% available, there'll be 16% shares available from the Gold family. Now, I don't know if Kretinsky has to buy the remainder or whether he can just decide to buy another 5-10% or whatever. That bit I don't know. Now, if that's scenario, is that he only has to buy what he wants, then it might leave 5% of the shares or 6% of shares or 10% of shares. Now, at that stage, at the end of the second stage, if that's the scenario and there are shares left, then Stabley can buy what's left, quite possibly. That's an in. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Toby. Good evening, Anthony. I hope you're all well. Good evening, Xenophobic. I'm in two minds. Do I go and watch it tomorrow or stay at home with my dogs? I'm driving all the way down there. 2-hour journey. I think you should go, mate. Randy, still the combination of all things board, uncertainty, combined with looking for a director of football, which took time, but also Nuno and Koppen had time to work things out with the squad as well. Yeah, a lot of things have been happening this summer, isn't it? Relegation, selling players, the board uncertainty, so many things going on. Xenophobic again. Sullivan and Stabley put our transfer window in jeopardy due to the ownership debate. He was hoping it would force Kretinsky into buying his shares at the pre-arranged price when he first came in to us. Oh, yes, you're talking about if Kretinsky took it over 50%. Well, it's Stabley and Gold that really sort of... I hate trying to exonerate Sullivan from any blame on this, but in this case, he's kind of not got a lot to do with it. What's happened is as someone else just said, Stabley offered more money and Gold said yes, and that's what's triggered this whole process. Steve, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Come on, Deflated Irons. We've lived over so much shit for many years, but we still hang on. We do indeed. Good evening to you, James. I hope you're well. Randy again. But at the same time, not being helpful with the mixed messaging from the club as well, from going to being ambitious to try and aim for promotion now to start panic buying, which is poor as well. Absolutely. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got here? Zeno, I believe Nuno thought it'd be a walkover against Charlton. He came unstuck and also think he's lost belief in himself. He looked a little bit lost at the end of the game, didn't he? He looked a little bit lost. James, do we all think the championship has changed since Nuno last won it with Wolves back in 2018? I think quite absolutely, yes. I think it has changed. And I think it's coming as just been mentioned, as a bit of a shock to everybody. And certainly to Nuno. Glenn, good evening. He's not an asset manager. Who's David Sullivan? He's still going to football games. We need to pay the geezer off. I didn't understand that. I didn't know what point. Really, sorry, mate. You're going to have to retype that. I didn't quite get your point there. Josh, good evening to you. I'm very well. I am angry. Really angry and disappointed at Saturday. I'm not angry. I'm just fucking disappointed, to be honest with you. I'm just disappointed at the way we played on Saturday, to be honest, at home as well. Never heard a boo quite like it. Booed at half-time, booed at full-time. I do not see us improving. I don't trust Nuno anymore. Zeno, also these players who bought aren't the profile Nuno goes for. It's likely they know who's coming in to manage us. Interesting point. Well, this is the thing. This is the interesting thing. That's and I like it. I like it. It may screw us up a little bit, but I like it in terms of the manager doesn't get the final say as to who we go out and buy. So when I go back to what I said earlier on, when I said the board knows who we want, what we want, I think more about the board knows what positions we want rather than maybe play. Maybe Nuno would have suggested a player or two, but that's a really good point. Not necessarily the kind of players that fit Nuno's profile. Well, that's a good thing, I was going to say, because we need continuity. So when another manager does come in, if another manager does come in, then we've got a squad that he should be able. Any coach should be able to pick up and get a tune out of. And I like that. That's what we needed to do. Because for too many years we've gone down the path of what the manager wants. Pellegrini, Moyes, Lopetegui, Potter. And Nuno to a point, last season. So I quite like the fact that we're getting players in who going to hopefully fit a system of play rather than fit in the manager's only way of wanting to play. Because if Nuno does get sacked, another manager should come in and hopefully get a tune out of these players. James, I think Nuno just walks after the transfer window. The difference with him here is that this time he's not being allowed to use Mendes like he did when he won the championship in 2018. That's a good point. Could he walk? It's very, very, very possible. Very possible. If he doesn't think he's been supported, look what he did at Nottingham Forest. You know, he walked away and they were in a much better position than we are. You know, they were, last season when he walked away, they were heading for Europe. They were in Europe, going to play in Europe. And he walked away from that. Or did he get sacked? Either way, he left. Mark, surely the board knew when Paco left it was going to be pear-shaped with Nuno in charge. Good evening to you, Renegade. I hope you're well. Smokey, Kretinsky should come and watch this team now and again, then you could see how crap we are. Well, that's interesting because I've been meaning to mention, and I'm glad you've raised it, Smokey. Kretinsky has got members on the board who are representing him, who are at the game, who are watching things going on, who are reporting back to him on a regular basis. They're his eyes and ears. Does he have to be there? I think for aesthetics, I guess, for the fan base, at least the fan base may think, well, at least he cares. He's turning up. But does that mean that Sullivan cares? He's turning up and we don't want him there. So does he need to be there, given that he's got representatives on the board who are doing all the decision making for him? Does he need to be there? I think for aesthetics, yes. But does he need to be there? I don't know. Daniela, good evening to you. No one to blame. We have to remember we got relegated, one of the most negative fan bases in football, and looking back seemed to wanted to be relegated while other fans were fighting to stay up. Yeah, the fan base was split. There were fans who were saying best thing that could happen to us is relegation. Evening to you, Mark. I hope you're well. Randy. Another thing that has gone unnoticed is since we brought in Rui Silva, who was pivotal to Nuno with his time at Forest and Wolves, I've yet to see what he's offering compared to what Paco was here. That's an interesting point. Yeah, that's fair. Andrew, the picture of Koppen sitting near Sullivan and his fluff was terrible optics for the fans. Yeah, I get it. Understanding. Not protecting that at all. Josh, part one, genuine question for anyone here. I've never got to Upton Park much as a kid, but it was it as quiet as negative as the London Stadium? Most of the noises when we moan at our own players. Well, I've been to the bowling where it's been absolutely rocking, and I've been to the bowling where it's been absolutely quiet. As quiet as the London Stadium? No, admittedly, because it was a smaller stadium, more compact. So you got some noise. But those who used to sit on the chicken run will tell you if they were unhappy with a player, that player knew about it and they heard it, because they were right up next to them. Yes, there have been times where you could hear a pin drop at the Upton Park, but it's different. The atmosphere was different. The whole environment was different. The whole setup was different. To be quite honest with you, since Nuno came in and started really urging us to sort of get behind the team at the London Stadium, the stadium atmosphere has been pretty good. Even when we got the goal back on Saturday and 2-1, the fans were up for it. They were urging the team to sort of move on. So it's different atmosphere. Part two, I know the stadium is no good and you've got to have something worth getting up for in front of us, but it seems like every other club really gets behind their team. But we've gone behind our team. We have. I can't say that we haven't. It would be unfair to say that. I think the fans are doing their bit as best they can. Zeno, no, Upton Park wasn't as silent as the London Stadium. Teams hated going there. It was top because it was a different environment, different atmosphere. I know he has gone to commentary. Thank you, not Hull. Thank you, Davina. Much appreciated. Gone to commentary. Michael, Nuno's mannerisms come across like he's just going through the motions. Did feel that way. It did feel that way when we were looking at him on the sidelines on Saturday and thinking he's not moving much. He's not very animated. Not asking him to go nuts on the sidelines, but he just doesn't seem very animated at the moment. Michael, by the time we finished, we will end up with an above average championship side instead of a team that's odds on to win the league. Interesting comment. Josh, I get that, Zeno. You can't keep a chant going. It dissipates before it gets to the other side of the stadium. James, there are a lot of similarities with Nuno now on the touchlines as there was when he left Forest. It will not surprise me, James. It will not surprise me if he does walk away. It will not surprise me. If he feels he's not been backed in the transfer window, then yeah. Twitchy. Stabley probably good longer term, but defo bad timing. I don't know, if I'm really honest with you. I've had this heated debate about Staveley and whether she is good for the longer term. One of the things I got into an argument about was over Staveley, and I kept saying, I just want to know who her backers are. I just want to know who the consortium is. And I kept being told, well, it's that American firm, whatever they called, Ashfield or whatever. And I went, no, that's one lot. That's one lot providing money. I don't know who's in the consortium. We keep hearing rumors that there are various body entities, but you look it up and you go private investors and stuff like that. And I was saying, the thing that worries me, not so much about I think Staveley is a footballing person. I don't have a doubt about that. You saw what she did with Man City. You saw what she did with Newcastle United as well. So in that respect, I've got no issues there. What I'm worried about is not so much Staveley, but the backers, these private backers that she's got in this consortium. Now, I was saying, I just want to know. I think the fans deserve to know who these backers are, because what worries me is that you've got that. Look what happened to her at Newcastle. She was a small shareholder. She was the one that was generating all the funds and all the links, etc., getting all the people in place, to buy Newcastle out and new ownership and all that sort of stuff. That's what she did. Now that they don't need her, she's gone. They bought her out. She's gone. She was a minority shareholder. Now, if she comes in and says, all I'm going to do for you, West Ham fans, is I'm going to link you up with these owners, etc., prospective owners, etc., and then I'll be gone, then fine. But it's the backers that I'm not sure about, not so much Staveley. I think Staveley's got good ambitions for West Ham United, but I don't know what her backers have got. So she'll be coming in. She's not spending her money to buy the 25% of the gold shares, if that's what ends up happening. She's using other people's money. So what are the other people's motives? And you're going to go to me, what are you talking about? Why are you doing conspiracy theories? Only because we've already heard that there's a land grab going on. That is all. It's mainly about buying the land, buying the stadium, buying the land. Great, I hear you say we can own our own stadium. We don't know what these investors want to do with that land. Now, I suggested to someone and he laughed at me and he went, you are stretching it. And I talked about Wimbledon FC, who ended up buying a new home in Milton Keynes and had to change their name to MK Dons. And he went, you're stretching it. What if these backers are only looking, these investors are only looking for the land? West Ham United is secondary to their purchase. Okay? West Ham United is secondary to their purchase. And what they could do, once they go, Staveley's brought them in, etc., they invest all the money, etc., and then they turn around and go, this bit of land, when we buy it, is worth more to us by building properties on it and shops and this, that, and that, whatever we do with it, but not a stadium. I think we'll build you a stadium, West Ham United, but we'll build it in Essex or somewhere else. Now, how would we feel as a fan base then? That would be the end of West Ham United, wouldn't it? And that's the only reason why I'm skeptical about Staveley. I'm skeptical because we don't know who her backers are. And if we knew who her backers are, I think I'd feel a little bit more comfortable, and then we kind of know what their intentions may be. We don't know what their intentions are. With Kretinsky, you can argue, why is he taking so long? He's been at the club for 5 years, 6 years, whatever it may be. He's not done anything and so on and so forth. And that's all very, very valid. But at least we know it's his money that we're dealing with. When he if he buys the shares that he says he's going to buy or he plans to buy, we know it's his money. You know what I mean? It's his company rather than unknown backers. And that's what worries me about Staveley. It concerns me slightly that we just don't know what the intentions are with her investors. There's no reason why her investors are not, they're using her to get a foot in, to then look at buying the stadium, buying the land, etc., etc. And then there's no reason why they wouldn't want to keep her. If they decide that they're better off without her, they buy her out and they can do what they want. They don't have an affiliation with West Ham United in the same way that Staveley's suggesting that she would. So Staveley may be here for the next, if she buys in, she may be here for the next 3 years or something like that. Wonderful. But then what happens thereafter? Maybe I'm being the conspiracy theorist, and you may tell me I'm really blowing smoke at my own arse. But that's why I'm worried about the Staveley the bid. To be honest with you, Michael Neil seems to be going after familiar names. No, Michael. What I would suggest is that the familiar names that keep being repeated year after year are coming up, and it may have nothing to do with Nils Koppen. This is why when I keep hearing about these players that we're being linked to all the time, I think, hang on a minute, we've got a new structure for player recruitment. Why are we still being linked to players that we were linked to last year or the year before that? No disrespect, Michael. I see your point, but I don't think that's that. I think these names are coming up because we don't know what's going on, because we're not being leaked information like we used to be when Sullivan was at the helm. So we don't know what's going on. So what do? We just regurgitate the old names that we've been linked to before. And when I go through some of the transfers in a moment, you'll see what I mean. Mark, lose our next 5 games and Nuno goes. Win our next 5 games and everything is rosy. Yeah. Zeno, I've seen a statement from Edson's agent that Alvarez is injured and there's been no talks to other teams. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute, mate. We'll talk about that in a minute. Mate, West Ham, great again. Good evening to you. Never mind new players. The manager needs to change the formation to get through the best of what we have. 4-3-3 is the best formation for. Yeah, but he went with 4-4-2. It was surprising. Didn't work, but it was surprising. Still, these ads are back whilst you are talking. I'm so sorry. I'm going to try and look into YouTube and see why there are, you're getting too many ads. I'm so sorry about that. Zeno. So in other words, she waited a few days, then tried to make a deal elsewhere. Staveley has all gone quiet. It was all a ploy from Sullivan to sell his shares. Inflate. Who's he selling to? Sullivan wants over $1 billion. He values the club at over £1 billion. So that means for his shares, his 38.8%, he's going to want 380 million pounds, nearly 400 million pounds for them. I don't know, but I don't think Staveley will be in for that. Darren, good evening to you. I believe that it's the share ownership debacle that's causing the slow pace of transfers. Question: would you sack Nuno if that decision was to be made? Nobody knows who's in charge. Like I said earlier on, I think a decision. Is that true? They want you to take. Please don't. I'm going to try and sort out the how many or the adverts coming up. I believe it's nothing can happen until the ownership situation is sorted out. But once that's sorted out by the end of what did I say? By the end of September, we could see movement on Nuno if things don't improve. Zeno, when DK first came in, him and Sullivan agreed a price for Sullivan shares at the value which he valued the club at the time, which is why I called in a favour and tried to buy the shares. Yeah. And then all the things, they were going to have 40% each. Sullivan and Kretinsky, they made that agreement that they were going to buy off shares from the Gold family, and they were going to buy 40% each. They were going to end up with 40% each. But then with everything that happened with Sullivan, he said, I can't do it. Didn't want to do it. Daniela, though I agree with 90% of what you say, I feel that it's a small section of the fan base that don't want atmosphere at the stadium, but watch the European games you see. I think everyone wants to be there and be in a good atmosphere. Frog, good evening, mate. I'm very well. I hope you are too. Let's get some more comments in from other people. Let's see. Do forgive me, Zeno and Randy. I know you're making a lot of comments and all valid, but I'm trying to get a few other people in as well tonight, if I can. Josh, personally, I think if we lose to Southampton and Watford, he should go. It's not just 4 games, it's 30 plus. He will have shown he cannot adapt. I fear that he's just unable to adapt and a bit of a dinosaur. Renegade, I think Kretinsky missing a deadline is pure speculation. Empty pots to make the most noises. Some of the shit flying around at the moment is ridiculous. Thank you. I'm glad someone else thinks the same way as I do in that respect. Paul, the board only cares about the land grab. West Ham is secondary, and that's the truth. This is what I think. Which board, though? The current board or the board that may come in under Staveley? And so you've said exactly you've repeated exactly what I've just said, mate. Run with the pack. Good evening to you from America. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Honestly, I look at the owner situation as a distraction from the poor transfer window we've had. If players come in and West Ham are 2-0, this is all under. If players come in and West Ham are winning 2-0, it's all water under the bridge. Yep, fair. Randy, all we can hope for is beat Southampton, then sign some good players, hopefully start getting the squad in a better place if that does go to plan. Josh, I still maintain that I think that Kretinsky has intended to fulfill his statement, but stably scuppered it by making an offer far too good to refuse. Remember, Gold wanted a legacy share. She did. And then she was offered money, and that legacy share went right out the window. Zeno, the money could be earned from the ground we are on is astronomical. Absolutely. I totally agree. Absolutely, it's astronomical. But who's going to earn it? And will it actually benefit West Ham? Will it benefit West Ham? That's the bit I'm just not sure about, to be honest with you. Run with the pack. Squad we've been building over the past couple of years. I do not think there was any type of long-term vision being built towards. No, there wasn't. It was random. Which is why I'm glad that we have got a director of player recruitment director of football, whatever you want to call him, because now it means that we're buying players to fit a system rather than buying players to fit a particular manager. Zeno, seems some fans want us as a team that keeps moving stadium every 10 or 15 years. We may get that wish if Staveley's lot have anything to do with it. Smokey, Kretinsky is full of bull. He hasn't done anything for us and probably won't. We will find out by the end of August, by the beginning of September, when the first stage of the preemption process is completed. We're going to have an indication as to what Kretinsky's plans are. If he's paid money, if he's gone and bought some of the shares, the 9% he's eligible for, I think he has every intention to see out what he promised to do before the transfer window opened. Josh, biggest problem with Nuno is that he will not adapt. Instead of working what he has, he's trying to force a strategy that doesn't suit our squad. He doesn't get the best out of players. And that's a fair comment. Lyle, good evening to you. Have we sold enough players to cover the debt yet? No, probably not. There's still more to go. Frog, it's systemic. Look at the past 3 seasons. It's money down the toilet if the system doesn't change, and it isn't any time soon. Well, I think we're trying to change it. We're trying to do an awful lot in one transfer window. Do we have to go to this January and do more business then if we don't do it now? I fear for that, because if we wait until January, we might be well away from the top half of the league. Michael, is it possible for Kretinsky can buy the shares? Is it possible for Kretinsky can buy the shares he was going to in the first place from Gold, and for Staveley to buy the rest after the preemption process? Yes, if the second stage of the preemption process goes the way it might do. And that's the bit I haven't got an answer to. Like I mentioned earlier, Michael, in the first stage, Sullivan is eligible for 13% if he wants them. Kretinsky for 9%. Trip Smith for, I think it's 4%, something like that. Anyway, if at the end of the first stage only Kretinsky has purchased his shares and there's 16% left, then what I don't know is whether he has to buy all the 16% or whether he opts to buy, say, maybe only 10% of those 16%. So if anything is left, if that's the scenario, if there's anything left, then yes, if Staveley's still interested, she can buy whatever's left over. Mandy, good evening to you. I hope you're well. There's me thinking of enjoying playing in the Championship, seeing us attacking teams and playing football. Is this where it is year after year? It's not changed, does it? And I think that's where my frustration came out. You know what I'm like. I try and look at the positives, but my frustration when I did the review came out because of that, because I didn't see anything different. You're absolutely right, Mandy. Jay Hammer, good evening to you. I can't think of a club in more of a mess. Board, relegation, debt, perfect storm. Relegation always takes time to recover from. Look at the past; it's no walk in the park. And we've been when we've been in the Championship. No, it could take us 2 seasons to get back up. But in terms of the debt, if it takes us another season to get back up, we are in absolute shit street. If that happens, it will be even worse to clear our debt if we don't get promoted this season. Even worse. Zeno, he was willing until Sullivan and his cronies came in and threw everything up in the air. 100 million loan from Daniel won't happen to January now. We can all thank Sullivan for that. Well, if Kretinsky takes over, then if he is serious about lending the club 100 million, he can still do it in January. He can still do it. It'll be too late for this window because the end of the first stage of the preemption process means the closing of the summer window. Paul, wouldn't matter to the board if we went down one league. It's all about making billions from the stadium and the land around it. It would matter. It would maybe wouldn't matter to Staveley if she bought in. It'd be even cheaper for her to buy the club. But it would matter to Kretinsky. He's got an investment in there, and to Sullivan as well. But yeah, you're right. There's a lot of money to be made out of the land that the stadium is on. Marky, good evening to you. Either Sully is pulling the strings or Kretinsky is copying his transfer method. What if it's neither? Zeno. Daniela, I agree. There's those fans who want us to, like the Gio and Gonzo are pushing. They want Staveley because Daniel hasn't loaned us 100 mil for transfer. Why? So here you are. You're a shareholder in a company. I've said this before. You're a shareholder in a company. You're planning to invest money in that company. And then you hear that someone is trying to buy the company out, which means that your position is in jeopardy. So you've made that promise. I will invest money in this company. And then you hear, oh, hang on a minute. Someone's coming over here. They're going to cause problems for me. My shareholder is in danger. Are you still going to invest 100 million pounds or even a penny in that company if you don't secure your position first of all? Absolutely not. So I don't blame Kretinsky for not investing money because his position at the up until now has been in jeopardy. And like I said earlier on, I think if he goes through the preemption process, it will demonstrate his ambition for what he wants to do. If he doesn't buy his part of the gold shares in the first stage of the preemption process, then everyone is absolutely right. He's a fraud. He's a fake. He lied to us, and he might as well go because we don't need him here. But if he does buy his stake in the first round of the preemption process, it means he did have a plan and he did have the money. Frog, we need a plan as a club. Otherwise, we'll keep going around in circles. There's clear evidence. Absolutely. Areola, people are saying, I agree about Areola. He needs to start tomorrow night. He really, really needs to start tomorrow night. And I hope he plays really well in order to keep his place in the starting lineup. Hermanson worries me. He really does. James, I think with the way the club are at the moment, and that includes at the top, we aren't going back to the Premier League in all honesty. Do we really want to be back there with the way we are? Like I've just said, not staying in the Championship, but not getting promoted is going to cause us even more financial problems than we currently have. Warren, good day from down under. We've got one from America, one from down under. Thank you, mate. Really appreciate you being here. I hope you're well. Doesn't matter who you bring in if you keep the same manager. Yeah, I hear that. I hear that loud and clear. Randy, position we really need is centre-back. Yep, possibly two. Definitely one. Central defensive midfielder, depending on whether Alvarez finally goes and Magassa goes. Left-back, absolutely. If the youth goes. Left winger, a winger. We need at least one winger and maybe a striker as well. Yeah, more or less agree. Good evening to you, Dark Star. I hope you're well. Zeno, was willing to loan us. Kretinsky was willing to loan us that money. Then Sullivan made a call and said, I can't have him doing this, throw things up in the air. Honestly, I really, really, really want to blame Sullivan. I really do. Because just life would just be easier. Let's just blame it on Sullivan. I really do. I don't think that's the issue here right now, to be quite honest with you. I think it's down to what Staveley did with Vanessa Gold, and like I've said, Vanessa Gold has got every right to expect to get the highest bid for her shares. Every right. Yeah, absolutely. But I don't honestly think I want to blame Sullivan, but I don't honestly think it's his fault, to be honest with you. Mr. Butler, good evening and good to meet you on Saturday, mate. We brought some so-called professionals with appalling attitudes. Mateta trying to force a move out from Palace. Oh, Mateta's trying to force a move from Palace, but he still plays at Everton. These clowns on our books won't even train. This is the problem. And I was asked last week, did they still get paid? And yes, Miss Hammerette, good evening. I hope you're well. Yes, they still get paid, because if we stop paying them, they'll just go, I'm injured. And then, their contracts say you've got to pay them. Good evening, everyone. I hope you're well. I can see Sharky's in there. Who else we got? Lee, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. It's me, Sam. Good evening, Sam. We need a new keeper. We need a right back, a left back, a centre back, a defensive-minded central defender, a midfielder, a creative number 10, and 2 wingers. It's never going to happen. Varane, Koppen, Sullivan, Kretinsky, Nuno, out. I agree with all the players we need. We're not getting them all. Smokey, who's running our team right now? Sullivan or DK or others? Varane, Karim Varane is running things at the moment as our CEO, if I have to be honest with you, and reporting back to Kretinsky, who's on the board. There you go. That's the truth of it. Johnny the Monkey, good evening to you. The books had to be balanced. It's like any business. If you're overspending on players with big reputations who fail to deliver, then you end up getting relegated, which is exactly what's happened. Good evening, St. Albans. I hope you're well, mate. Nice to see you. Adam again. I don't see Vardy going to South America. They are a close family, and his wife and children couldn't settle in Italy and return home. Vardy, it's gone quiet a little bit there, so I don't know. Paul, weak leaders at the top, weak manager, weak captain, weak squad. Fair comment. Fair comment. Mandy, if we have little funds, we cannot afford to get rid of Nuno right now. We don't know what his new contract says, because we know that the contract he came on when we were still in the Premier League didn't have didn't have that sort of like, if we sack him, he gets paid off, etc. I don't know what this new contract is like. Even if he signed a new contract, he's agreed to stay on. Don't know if he signed a new contract. Now, the last contract certainly didn't have any payout. So maybe it's just a continuation and he may not get paid out again. Hammer75, good evening to you. Now that joint statement and share buying is null and void, nothing has changed in running the club, just a name removed. Well, we'll see what happens with the preemption process. Nice one. Good evening to you. I think we will eventually get rid of Nuno, but not before with more drama. I can't see this happening until the shareholder. I agree with you. By then, it may be too late for the season. Well, as I've said earlier on, if things are still not going well, the preemption process will end at the end of September, beginning of October. If things are still not going well, I can see Nuno going in mid-October, unless, as James said, he decides to walk himself. Michael Stelt, the draw works on 90 minutes only in football. Okay, I didn't know that. Johnny, our so-called superstars on huge wages couldn't beat Charlton at home in front of 62,000 supporters. Says everything, really. Absolutely, I agree. Glenn, we're being sold a lorry load of lies. I can guarantee we will not add to the squad and sack Nuno the day after the window closes. We will lose 3 or 4 players in the bargain. The club is a joke. We will see what happens, mate. For me, I think we will get players in. I don't know whether we'll get enough of what we need, but I think we will get a few more signings in. I think that's pretty certain. As to the lies, I think that will only be found out once the preemption process is done and dusted. Lightel, Nuno's going nowhere unless you want to pay 16 million contract up. Well, again, we don't know. We don't know. If it's the same contract as it was last season, if it's just a continuation of that, I didn't hear that he's signed a new deal. I just heard that he's agreed to stay on. So if he's agreed to stay on, it could quite possibly be under the terms of the old deal where there was no payout if he was sacked. Hammer it. It's all just a mess. I'm not at all surprised by the CF that we've become. It's only a matter of time. Marky, Kretinsky is full of crap. Just another lying owner taking the piss out of West Ham. We will find out, Marky. We'll find. I can only say this because that's the logic I can only go by. We will find out if the preemption process happens and he hasn't made a bid for any shares, then you're absolutely correct. But if he has, then I think Kretinsky's got a plan. Randy, Michael T, depending on the transfer window outcome, if it's not positive, then possibly another director of football, director of player recruitment could be a priority, but depends on this window. Fatakis, good evening, mate. Kalispera to you. Stel, lose to Watford, Nuno gone. It's possible. It's possible. Robin, good evening to you. If we keep with the Nunty Nuno until October, our season will be over. He's clueless on tactics. Glenn, how much to sack Nuno? It's going to be 5, 10. It might be nothing. Like I've just said, we don't know what his contract is. What we know is he agreed to stay on. What we don't know is whether he agreed to stay on with a new contract, which has got a buyout clause or not. Thank you, Chris Lee. Sorry. Thank you for becoming a member. Much really appreciated. Who else have we got here? Mandy. 2-year contract plus his team. Then we need to get another team in on a contract. You're looking at around 30 million. We're not going to do that. Not under the current situation we're in. 12-month member. Wow. Thank you, Harry. Really appreciate that. Bielsa and Di Canio. Fuck you know. I thought you wanted to stop the chaos, not make even more of it. I've been really well hammering it, and I hope you have too. Razor, good evening to you. How anyone wants Kretinsky to own our club is deluded. Had his chance with buying gold shares and missed out. Stably brings proper money in, no messing about, and interested in football at our club. Like I've said earlier, let's see. Let's see what happens with the preemption process. If the preemption process shows Kretinsky showing his hand and being part of it, then I would say he wants to stay part of it. If he doesn't, then it allows Stabley to come in with all her private money and see what happens there. Andrew, will be massively underwhelmed if we sign Reece Nelson. Another average injury-prone player with absolutely no resale value and high wages would send out a terrible message. I 100% agree. Dark Star, are you traveling to Southampton? I'm driving down there, mate. Does that mean you want West Ham to progress? Of course I do. Too many games. I want West Ham to win a cup and go up. That's how deluded I am. I want West Ham United to win a cup and go up, just like we did in 1980. Will it happen? No, probably not. But yeah, I'm going down there for my sins. Bernie, good evening to you. Simple question. Who should West Ham turn to as a manager if Nuno goes? I'm in two minds who would be best. There are many out there, but let's concern ourselves with that if Nuno is sacked. Good evening, EAF. Good evening to you. Marky Boy, Stel, my recommendation is park in the car park under the bridge and walk across it to the stadium. You're going to have to send me the details. I don't know the car park under the bridge, but thank you for that recommendation. Who else have got here? Steve, good evening to you. Let's get it right. We have a manager who's a fraud and a team with no balls. Good evening, Steve. I hope you're well. We've got a striker, though, mate. We've signed 2 strikers. I thought you'd be happy. Chip, good evening to you. Kretinsky won't have to buy the remaining shares after purchasing 9%. I think his first dibs is no one else takes up their option. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, so he buys in the first stage. If he enters it, he's eligible for 9%. Second stage, he doesn't have to buy anything. You're absolutely correct. But what I don't know is whether if he does decide to buy shares in the second stage, whether he has to buy all or only a portion of them. But you're absolutely right. He can turn around and go, I'm done. I'm happy with the 9%. What I think he wants is to have more percentage than David Sullivan. So buying 9% will only take him to 36%, which is still nearly 3% less than David Sullivan. Now, let's not forget, he just sold 2%, just over 2% to his mate, Harvland, another Czech billionaire. And in order to do that, the reason why I think he's done it is now he's reduced his stake to 25%, and then he buys the 9%, and then if there's any left, he buys the remainder of the gold shares. That will take him to 49% ownership, which means he doesn't trigger this agreement that he's got with Sullivan, where if anyone goes 51% or more, they've got no choice but to buy out all the other owners. So you're right, he doesn't have to, but I think his intention is to go all the way. Jack, what happens if the transfer window ends? We're stuck with players who don't want to play for us. They're under contract. They've got to play. Andrew, I'm starting to get concerned that Sullivan's pulling the strings. Randy, he looked very comfortable on Saturday. He owns the football club. I don't mean this in a horrible way, but you've got to understand the difference between having ownership, having shares in a football club and running the football club. He's got shares in the football club. He can turn up whether we like it or not. And I know none of us like it, but he can turn up at a game of football that he owns 38% of. There's nothing we can do about that. Is he still running the club? He's resigned from the board. So no, he's not still he's not still involved in the decision making of the club. But in terms of going to the games, we've got no choice. We've got no choice but to accept the fact that he continues to want to turn up football matches. The optics don't look good. I agree with you. Zeno, Sullivan has the mindset he doesn't like anyone outshining him in a business level and personal level. He's egotistical little man, and what Daniel's doing shows that he's a better businessman than he was. Yeah, that's a really, really good point, Steve. Sullivan sitting there, Koppen and Karim still put. Okay, I'm not going to. I find myself I have to explain again. I don't mean it badly, Steve. Sorry, mate. I know people are making comments and I'm just picking them out randomly, but I've already explained what I think about that. Paul, the problem is still when you have a shit coach, there's no point giving him players he doesn't know what to do with. Nuno isn't a coach. That's valid. That's a valid point. Colin, still, if Sullivan puts his shares up, that would have to a process, I believe, in. If Sullivan puts his shares up, that would have to have a process, I believe, and Kretinsky and other board members would have first refusal before. Absolutely. This is exactly it. You've hit the nail on the head. You know, anyone that's willing to sell their shares to an outside body, it could be Sullivan, Kretinsky, Tripsmith, anyone who is looking to sell their shares, they've got to be offered to the current shareholders first and foremost. It's a legal, it's not just, oh, well, let's do it or let's not do it. It's a legal process. It's a legal process that's triggered. Stavely offering money to gold meant that the the legal preemption process was kicked into, was kicked off, and it can't get away from that. So absolutely, you're right. If anyone, whether it be Sullivan or anybody else, wants to sell their shares to an outside source, an outside entity, the preemption process has to kick in, where the current owners or the current shareholders have first refusal of those shares. Razor, cheapskate Kretinsky lost out waiting to pay gold. Hope gold puts the price up again. If Stavely doesn't get gold shares, let Kretinsky feel the pain. He actually wanted Nuno. She can't put the price up. Stavely can't come back and go, okay, well, I offered you 150 million pounds, and now, just to piss all the other shareholders off, I'm going to offer you 200 million. After the preemption process is done, if any shares are left, then Stavely can purchase what's left over to the equivalent value of what she offered gold in the first place. It's me, Sam. Sullivan never went anywhere. They got their 50k plus season ticket renewals. Now the messages coming out from the club seems to have changed. Funny that. I don't think the messages have changed, Sam. I hate it because I feel like I'm trying to protect Sullivan. I'm not. I'm desperately not. But I'm just, with the greatest of respect, people, I'm just stating the facts. Sullivan never did go anywhere. The only difference is Sullivan's resigned from the board. Sullivan is not involved in the day-to-day running of the club, but he's not gone anywhere. I saw another mess on social media saying I was duped into buying my season ticket because I believed Sullivan had gone. Sullivan's never left. Sullivan hasn't sold any of his shares. Sullivan remains a shareholder owning 38.8% of the share of the club. He resigned from the board. He resigned from the running of the day-to-day of the club, but he's not left. I think I even said that at the time when Sullivan resigned from the board. I said he's not left. Don't get confused. He's not left this football club. He still has 38% ownership of this football club. The only difference is he's not running things. Adam, why would the powers at the club trust Nuno and Mendes in the transfer market after they spent 90 million on Pablo? Really good point. Absolutely correct. Andrew, I think Eddie Howe will wait for another Premier League job. Can't see him drop to the Championship. Cost a lot to entice him. McKenna or Bellamy should be our main targets. McKenna, interesting. Yeah. Bellamy, yeah, interesting. He's been mentioned before. Hammer 75. 2nd of September is big day for West Ham. One of the biggest days in our history going forward. It will be interesting to see what happens on the 2nd of September. Not only because the transfer window's shut and see where we're at with our squad, but also because the preemption process, the first stage, it will be done and dusted. Jay Hammer. Mavropanos had one of his bad games with mistakes leading to goals. They cost us on Saturday. We have to sort the defence out before the window shuts. New left back, new centre back. Totally agree. Dinos, ironically, I kind of blame Kilman, but ironically, Dinos just doesn't play well alongside Kilman. Or you could say Kilman doesn't play well alongside Dinos. Look, they're not a good partnership. Doesn't matter which way you look at it, they're just not a good partnership. Ibrahim, people who think Howe will want to join West Ham need a reality check. Hammer, we need to know what happens to that 2% that DK can sell if he purchases. That's got to go through the same thing. It's got to go through the preemption process. So you can't just give him, his mate, 2% of the club, because that will be challenged. So my understanding is it doesn't matter how big the percentage is. I could be wrong. I'm no expert in this, but from what I'm being told, from the information I'm sourcing, when I look at it, a preemption process comes in, even if you're selling 0.5%. Apparently the current shareholders have first refusal of buying that 2%. Who else have we got here? Yuha, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Fans need to finally get that there is no fast and easy fix. We will get there in the end. Yeah, that's a good point, mate. It may take a long time to get sorted out. Claren Blue Forever, good evening to you. Fill the stadium up, put three managers in the centre spot. Let the three managers have their say. Give supporters 3 photos and let fans pick who they want when they can't complain if you talk shit. I didn't know where you were going there. We'll put 3 managers in the centre spot. God, imagine that. That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? 3 managers start sitting there going, you should pick me as manager. Paul, I played at Upton Park against West Ham in the FA Youth Cup game. Oh, one of the best nights of my life. Mate, nice. Like that. Ibrahim, it's been loud at the London Stadium when the team gives us something to cheer about. Absolutely. Hammerette, can't stand Nuno. He's inept, does not work for us. He has to go. Sullivan sat there every home game, makes me want to puke. Players need to step up, stop playing so arrogant too. Well, I did say on in the post match review that it looked like we're trying to play Premier League football in the Championship, and they're taking the piss out of us, Charlton. They're going, this is how we play football in the Championship. It's all brute force, getting it up there, getting it to your fastest player on the pitch, defend, get it to your wide player and let him run you amok. All this passing was just turgid and boring, and nothing was happening. Hammer it. Genuine question. How chummy are Sullivan and Staveley? You want a genuine answer? Not that anyone's going to believe me, but my understanding is Sullivan hates Staveley. And now Kretinsky hates Staveley as well. Now, there's the thing. If Staveley, and I said this, the match made in heaven, or the match made at West Ham United, would be a Staveley-Kretinsky partnership. But it hasn't worked that way. So she's come in and ruffled the feathers. Rather than going, listen, Daniel, I want to buy 25% and work alongside you. No, she came in and said, I want to buy 25% and then take over the whole club, is what she said. Kretinsky has gone, oh, hang on a minute. I'm not having that. If she'd have come to him and said, why don't we work together as a proper partnership, buy Sullivan out, offer him top dollar for his shares, and then become joint shareholders of this football club, that would have worked absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. With Kretinsky's money and Staveley's footballing know-how, that would have worked perfectly. But Staveley's got her own agenda because she's got backers that we don't know about. She's got backers that we've got no clue as to what their plans are. So when that's happening, Kretinsky's nose has been put out of joint. And he's gone, I'm not having that. Whereas if she'd have gone to him and said, look, I won't come in with this consortium. Why don't you back it, Daniel, with your money? I'll make this football club tick. And we'll buy Sullivan out. And between the two of us, we can make this football club tick. But she didn't come across that way. She's come across and said, I'm using my own money. Well, consortium money. I'm going to buy the whole club out. That's thrown everything out. Sullivan doesn't like Staveley. And I dare say now Kretinsky doesn't either. Ibrahim. Staveley was never going to buy shares. It's all been a hoax and we fell for it. I think she's in, her intention was absolute. She was going to buy, but she's now being played at her own game and she's being muscled out of it. Ralph, I want an owner that goes to home grounds and wants to run the club. She would know fans hate this football. Absolutely. I don't disagree with that, Ralph. Don't disagree with that at all. I did say earlier in the show that Kretinsky has got his, people who sit on the board on his behalf. They go to the games, and so they'll know. They'll be feeding back to Kretinsky what it's like, etc. But I agree. Yeah, I agree. The optics would look good if you had an owner that actually turned up for games. I get that. Chip, I believe that some of Staveley's private investors are the Reuben brothers, property moguls. Well, that's a rumor. And that's what we believe. We understand. They could be part of the process. And when I looked it up, there's absolutely no detail. It just says global, Saudi and American backers, plus more money investor, plus more private investors. Who the fuck is in this consortium? Who the hell? If it's the Reuben brothers, we know what the Reuben brothers want. They want the land, and then West Ham United become a secondary problem for them. They're not going to be obligated to keep us at that stadium or keep us at that land if they think it's more valuable to them by having a football stadium somewhere else being built for us. They're not going to care. Toby, how can an ex-goalkeeper know about attacking football, and how many ex-goalkeepers make good managers? I can only think of Dino's off. Yeah, good point. Ibrahim. She doesn't want anything. She doesn't want anything, and Coutinho doesn't want to pour money into the club, get real people. He doesn't want to pour money into the club because of what's happened right now. But I wonder if this thing didn't happen, whether Kretinsky would have put his money where his mouth was. Renegade. Staveley is a mercenary. She pushes the agenda, whoever she represents, even if it's to the detriment of the club. And I've got to be honest, at this moment in time, I agree with that more than anything else. Because I keep repeating throughout the night, if she tells us who's in this consortium, I might sleep a little easier when it comes to what's going to happen with this football club. Bill, I don't understand why anyone would buy into a club without wanting to at least make the club run properly. Might as well just put their money in crypto or something, surely. I'm not saying, don't get me wrong. When I talk about Staveley, I'm not saying she doesn't want to run the club properly. I think she's got every good intention to run West Ham United in the right way. Every good intention. But then it's the money. It's not her money. It's not her money. It's a consortium money. She's backing a consortium. It's what the consortium want to do that worries me. Zeno, the plan and talk was somewhere in Basildon. If they could purchase the land there you go. You want to move to Basildon? Well, I don't think we'd be allowed to be called West Ham United anymore, would we? I think that'll go because we'd be out of Newham. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Jack. The way Piero plays reminds me of Dean Ashton. I'm sure he can get a hatful of goals. I think he will. I think he'll be a good purchase for us. Christian, all my Newcastle mates are saying, I hope that we get Staveley. I just think we'd better under her guidance than Kretinsky and Sullivan. All of them will be looking at the land anyway. Yeah, fair point. It's quite possible. But like I said earlier in the show, at least we know at least we know it'll be Kretinsky's money rather than private money that we've got no clue about. I might be completely wrong on that. Completely wrong. Bill, turn the London Stadium into a massive top golf course and build a stadium in Memorial Park. Kenneth, good evening to you. What if applies to Kretinsky as well as Staveley? Staveley, however, is a football person, whereas Kretinsky most definitely is not. Well, he's run a football club for 20 years. He owns Sparta Prague. He's owned that football club for 20 years. Good or bad, neither here nor there. But he's a footballing person. Well, no, I'll take that back. He's invested. He owns the club that he supported as a boy, and then he found an option to put money into West Ham United. Look, I'm not disputing for a moment that Staveley would be good on the footballing side. Absolutely not. Andrew, Staveley talks talk, but if anyone thinks this isn't about the surrounding area and are blind, I don't have trust or belief in either of their true intentions, especially with Sullivan in the background. Colin. Still, I believe part of Staveley's backers, one company's actually borrowed money like the Graziers did at Man United, but would like to know who the other backers are. Right. Well, one of the things I've mentioned about, if Staveley got in, Staveley's intention is to buy the whole club. Now, there's one way of doing that, and that's doing what the Glazers did. You lump all the debt onto the football club. You borrow from the club, whatever you can. Not a lot you can borrow from, but you borrow from the club. You laden it with debt in order to buy the club. What then? What if Staveley gets voted out, and then we're left with even bigger debt than we've got at the moment? Josh. Nils Koppen is going for familiar names other than the Parrott and Engels, who we got largely not heard anything until late, not long before the signing confirmation of missing out. Josh, as I said earlier in the show, the names that are coming out from social media. They're not coming out from Nils Koppen. So when we keep hearing about all these same names, it's not Koppen that's saying that we're after this player and that player. It's social media. And like I said earlier in the show, you know, you've got the same players being mentioned that were mentioned a year ago, even longer. Apache. No, like the new stadium in Essex will be built in the grounds of the Sullivan Mansion. God, you got a lot of comments tonight. Kansas, good evening to you. Glenn, you put West Ham in Essex. It's not West Ham anymore. We have to stay in Newham. Exactly that. Exactly that. You know, so they can't. What's to stop them from saying, "I'm sorry, people, we can't afford to build you a stadium at where we currently are, but we'll build you a stadium in Essex." That will be the end of West Ham United. Hammerette, if Staveley had any real actual football interest in West Ham, then why would she wait until our transfer window to put in a bid on shares and Horton? I agree. What bad timing? The worst possible timing that could have happened. Absolutely. James, Chicago-based private equity firm Ashland. I know about Ashland. I know about them. Is providing primary portion of the institution capital alongside Staveley PCP capital. No. They are part of it. PCP are part of it. And PCP have got no money, by the way. But it's the consortium that PCP are backing that I'm talking about. Ashland do not have enough money to do this deal on their own. PCP have definitely not got enough money to do this deal on their own. And what PCP are doing, which is her husband and herself, are backing a consortium. You look it up, a private consortium, a consortium of global, Saudi, and American investors, plus other private investors. So I know about Ashland. It's the name I was trying to think of earlier on. I know about PCP. PCP don't have the money, mate, to actually go and do a deal of this magnitude. Glenn, they're only interested in the land. No one of them cares for the club. We will end up like Juventus, homeless. That's not impossible. Apache, no, I like the new stadium in Essex will be. Yeah, I've done that one. Brian, the sell-off of players still points to asset stripping for a sale. This makes the club look more profitable and lucrative, stably to buy everyone out. I don't think so. I think the reason why we're selling all our players is because we've got huge debt. Huge debt. Zeno. But there's YouTube channels pushing the narrative they want Staveley because Daniel was messing us about. And that's absolutely fine. Mate, I'm not saying that what I think is correct. This is what I'm researching, from what I'm looking at, from what I'm reading between the lines, etc. That's what I'm coming to. I'm not saying I've got any insider information. I absolutely do not blame any of the other YouTube channels for wanting Staveley. I get it. I absolutely do. And like I said earlier on, if she tells us where the money's coming from, I will probably say that I want her to. But unfortunately, I can't, because you're sort of leading into the dark. You're going into the dark. You know, so I've got no problem. I've got no issue with other YouTube channels saying that they want Staveley. I get it. From the footballing perspective, it makes total sense. Sullivan isn't shedding shares, Ibrahim. Staveley isn't buying anything. Kretinsky isn't pouring money into the club. Why is everyone falling for the same old lies? The only bit about that is that we'll never know now is whether Kretinsky was going to put money in. Until the Staveley thing came up, our understanding was he was going to invest money into this club. Now, I'll tell you what's proof there, Ibrahim. If Kretinsky does what he's going to do and buys the shares and becomes, the largest shareholder of the football club, then let's see what he does in the January transfer window. If he puts any money behind the club to buy players in January to push us up the league. There you go. Let's scroll down. Let's see who else we've got here. Otter, good evening to you. I'm nervous about our goalkeeper situation. Hermansen isn't good enough, and we are too much in a storm to even consider goalkeeper in the last week of the window. Well, someone put on Twitter, there you go. I've been on Twitter far longer than I should have been, that apparently we're in for Nick Pope. I have got no clue if that's true or not. Absolutely no clue whatsoever. Would I like to believe it? Nick Pope's not a bad keeper. There you go. The Pope is too old. But that's what I've heard. Whether that's true or not, I do not know. Zeno, what if Nuno's telling these players they aren't in Nuno's plans? Are they meant to stay and not play? And he get, well, look at Alvarez is a prime example. That actually leads me into, we can talk about these players now. Alvarez, said, I want to stay. And Alvarez was played for the game against Portsmouth. And then Alvarez was going to be picked in the game against Burnley, and he turned around and went, "Oh, no, I don't think I'm going to stay." Because then we heard that Real Sociedad were making a bid. Where on earth is the Real Sociedad bid gone? Apparently today, Olympiacos are interested in buying Alvarez. You know what? I think the problem is these players are not wanting to play for whatever reason. Could be because of Nuno's tactics, because they've fallen out. Could be because they don't want to be, they don't believe they're championship players. Whatever the reason is, we've got these players like Alvarez, like Diouf, like Todibo. All these players are still at the club, and we keep hearing every week they're almost being sold. So Alvarez last week, Real Sociedad apparently was near to completing a deal. Whole week's gone, nothing. Olympiacos are in for him now. Won't surprise me if tomorrow some other club will be in for him. Basically, we can't get rid of them. Diouf, how many weeks have we been hearing about Diouf? And then at the end of last week, all of a sudden he got dropped, and then you heard that Brentford are making a bigger bid for him, 37 million plus whatever, to bring it to well over 40 million. Where is it? He didn't get picked. It wasn't even on the bench. So we don't even know we don't know if he's refused to play. He's training with the squad. We don't know if he's refused to play or whether Nuno's decided doesn't want him. And then we got Todibo. A week ago, Marseille were in for him, and it was definite. He was definitely going out on loan to Marseille. Well, where's that gone? Apparently now, an unnamed Premier League club are in for him. An unnamed Premier League club. I do not know what is going on with regards to our players. What it seems to be is they want to leave. They don't want to play for West Ham United. We just simply can't get rid of them. There's no one out there that wants them. These are players that cost us 30 mil, 35 mil, etc., etc. Big money. Okay, we paid 19 mil for. But these are players that cost us a lot of money who are getting paid. Even though they're getting their wages halved, they're players who are costing us a lot of money. They don't want to play for West Ham United. Nuno can't select them because they're refusing to play. We can't get rid of them. What a situation to be in. What a situation to be in. I'm going to talk about transfers, players that we're linked to in just a moment. Ralph, can you put the money in and have it written into a contract if he sells or whatever he gets back? Yes, you're talking about Kretinsky. The understanding is he was going to loan West Ham United something like 90 to 100 million pounds. He was going to loan the money to the club. And there would have been a clause in there, I'm sure, but got to pay it back with interest, got to pay it back within a certain period of time, etc., etc. Now, the other story that was out there, which again I don't know, is that if it didn't end up being paid back within a certain period of time, what Kretinsky could do is request for that money to be converted into shares. So he increases his sharehold and it reduces the value of everybody else's. He could have done that. So yes, there would have been something in the contract to be able to get his money back. Paul, Areola is fine for the championship. No point having Dino Arms in there to spray passes to Kilman. Exactly. I don't care about the distribution. I care about a keeper being able to save a shot. Zanuzzi, imagine if we had the biggest attendance over a weekend in League One. Unlikely, but sadly not impossible if we're promised something new and get relegated. Can you imagine that? We go down, they're definitely. We all thought that when we got relegated, we'd be lucky to get 30,000 season ticket renewals. The fact that we got over 50 is just unbelievable. If we got relegated again, I'm surprised if we even get 25,000 renewals. Zeno, the players we are selling mainly are throwing tantrums and refusing to play for us, but these youngsters done moves. What's going to be best for their careers? Don't move. What's going to be best? It's always going to be that way. Agreed. Daniela, Stabley does all she can to mess up our transfer window when Kretinsky pledged to put money in to try and get us up in the hope that we get relegated again, thus leaving Sullivan to drop asking price. That's a big gamble. Big gamble. Glenn, is Diouf going? It seems to be dragging out. Like I've just mentioned, with all the players there, all of them seem to be dragging out. I just don't know. There's talk that Magassa and Diouf are going to be playing against Southampton tomorrow night. You know the irony. Really. Do you know what really irks me? What really irks me is if you had Alvarez, Diouf, Todibo in goal. Alvarez, Diouf, Todibo in the starting lineup. We would have comfortably beaten Burnley and Charlton because they are good enough players. But the fact that they're sitting there and we can't get rid of them and can't play, they don't want to play. That's the most frustrating thing for any manager, I think. David, West Ham shafted us by steadying the ship until all those season tickets were sold. I've decided to more actively support Brentford going forward, as West Ham bring me nothing but pain. Paul, evening from Dubai. Good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Can we name 5 first-team players that actually look like they want to be there? Bowen. We haven't talked about Bowen, have we? Have we? You know, apparently Crystal Palace are making a £50 million bid. How many of you believe that? Because I certainly don't. It's just more stuff to wind us all up, isn't it? Bowen, I think, wants to be there. I think Dinos is committed to being there. I think Carl Walker-Peters has committed to being there. Souček, who's injured, is committed to being there. Give me one more. Pablo is committed to being there. Malkstar. See, I've got the 5. Manson is not the problem. It's Mavs and Kilman that should have gone 3 or 4 windows ago, and maybe we'd still be in the Premier League. I still think Manson is the problem as well, mate. I don't disagree, Malkstar. I don't disagree with what you said about Kilman and Mavropanos, but Hermansen is just a bigger problem. Jack, there's no way we're going to get 4 or 5 players now. Time has run out, unless we're going to get several loans. I will not be surprised if we get several loans. Marky, Sullivan took over a club with 100 million in debt. Both said he'd have it paid within 5 years. Here we are 15 years later, 300 million in debt, while he's raped and pillaged the club to the verge of extinction. Anthony, Potts went because he wanted game time with these new players coming in. He went further down the order. The irony, Anthony, is he would have been first choice now as defensive midfielder. You know, because I think the reason why we ended up letting him go, well, he did ask to go. He knew about the bid coming in from Bruges, and he said, I want to go because, as you've said, he would have got game time there, and he's getting game time there. But the irony, if he'd have stayed, Alvarez is likely not to be there, Magassa may not be there, etc., etc. He would have been our star. He would have been our star. I don't know. Zeno, less than 1% of academy players go on to play professional football, and at best we can only develop championship players. Yeah, I think it's something like less than 3% get to play Premier League football or something like that. But yeah, I've heard that before. Andrew Pinnock on his way to Coventry. Good business, wouldn't have minded him. He's a perfect example of players that we've been linked to before, and nothing ever happened before. Glenn, don't believe a word that comes out of the club regarding players refusing to play. Probably been told they're not wanted. I don't know, Glenn. Otherwise, why pick Alvarez for the first game if you don't want him? Keith, Galispera to you. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Who else have we got here? Let's scroll down. Zeno. I also see a little while ago, we've agreed a deal for Reece Nelson from Arsenal, but aren't executing the deal until we've explored other targets, i.e. Harvey Elliott. Well, let's go on. Come on then. Let's do it. Let's start with Noel. We'll work backwards, shall we? Reece Nelson. Apparently, I mentioned right at the start of the show, there's a medical book for tomorrow, and apparently it's for Reece Nelson. Do I believe it? I'm not so sure. I do. Look, you know, if it happens, it happens. I'll tell you why I don't think it. Why I don't think it could happen. And so this thing about we're hanging. We booked a medical for him, but we're hanging on just in case we get someone else. It just doesn't make sense, does it? And the reason why I don't think it'll happen is purely because the deal apparently is £3 million because he's in the last year of his contract, and Arsenal want something for him. But he's on £100,000 a week. You're going to have to negotiate with a footballer that could stay at Arsenal for a year because he's contracted to do so. You're meant to let me believe that this footballer is going to accept a lower wage of around £50,000 a week to come and play for West Ham United, where he could stay for a year at Arsenal, even if he doesn't get game time, and still earn £100,000 a week. It doesn't make sense. It simply doesn't make sense. That's why I'm like, if it happens, it happens. Would I be happy about it? No. There should be better players out there that we can go and get. But I just, it will not surprise me one bit. This caveat, you know, we're not going to push the button on doing the deal unless we, you know, just in case we find someone else. That means the deal's not done. That means the deal's not been agreed. What terms have been agreed? Oh, Nick Reese, mate. You're playing for Arsenal. You got a year left. We know you're earning 100 grand a week. But I'll tell you what, we'll offer you a deal, and you can come and play for us. But you're only getting 50, mate. Sounds good, doesn't it, Reese Nilsson? Of course, it doesn't sound good. That's why I'm not sure. So if this deal doesn't come off, it won't surprise me one bit, not one bit. But let's see what happens. Maybe I'm wrong there. Other players, I don't know much about them. Victor Nelson is a player that we've actually been offered to West Ham United. 27 years of age, centre back, experienced, physical, strong in duels, defensively aggressive. Well, I hope so. He's a fucking defender. Currently plays for Galatasaray, valued at around £5 million. A permanent deal's in the offing. There is more a case of Nelson being offered to West Ham than West Ham pursuing him. Would we take it? I really don't know, is the honest answer. I don't know much about him, but that's a story that came up today. Who else? Now, I said earlier on in the show that we keep being linked to players that we were linked to before. We were linked to Nelson Diosa when David Moyes was still at West Ham United. And that's over 3 years ago now. And now, apparently, we're still linked to Nelson Diosa. West Ham have been linked, got a remaining interest in Nelson Diosa, reportedly amongst a number of clubs looking at a deal with the player from Real Betis. 26 years of age, defensive midfielder, powerful, aggressive, left-footed midfielder, defensive qualities, valued at around £9 to £10 million. And only a permanent deal will get him. But we've been linked to him for three years in a row. 3 or 4 years. Which is why I'm going, yet again, if this doesn't happen, it won't surprise me one iota. Next up is a new name, different name, Dario Asujo. No Nelson in his name. Dario Asujo, linked to West Ham United, considering as a midfield option. What midfield option? Don't know anything about him, whether he's a defensive midfielder. I think it's actually another defensive midfielder. 21 years of, yes, here we are, defensive midfielder, 21 years of age, physical, athletic, ball winning, defensively strong, currently at Chelsea. Club paid around 18 million for him. A loan is most likely, although a permanent loan to buy is a possibility. So there we go. That's a new name. It came up today. I don't know how valid it is, but let's see if I can get the story up. See if I can give you a bit more information if I can. Do I want to talk about Nelson? No, I don't want to talk about him anymore. Here we are. So West Ham are considering move for Chelsea midfielder Dario Asujo as they assess options to strengthen their midfield. The East London club recruitment team are preparing for possible departures. Is that a fact? Of Edson Alvarez and Songutu Mikasa, who have attracted significant interest from clubs. So significant that we can't bloody well get rid of them. If either player leaves the window, before the window closes, West Ham's hierarchy are determined to move quickly. What a joke. For a direct replacement, ensuring the squad is not left short this season. Christ. Asugo is a candidate under consideration, 21 years of age, Portuguese defensive midfielder, joined Chelsea from Sporting, possesses, given fierce competition places at Stamford Bridge, Chelsea may be open to a permanent deal or a structured loan with an option to buy. From permanent to option. Which one is it? However, Asujo is not West Ham's only target. The Hammers are also monitoring Real Betis' Nelson Diosa as an alternative. So there you go. There's a new name for you that hasn't come up before. Possible? I do not know. Another new name for you is, let me get his name. Is it Jax Ekomi? If West Ham United sell Malik Diouf, Jax Ekomi is an alternative replacement at left back. 23 years of age, athletic, quick, attack-minded fullback. Current club is French club Angers, valued at between 5 million, £6 million, and they're looking for a permanent deal. He's in his last year of his contract, so if they're going to let him go, rather than let him see out his contract, they would rather let him go. Now, look. I don't know anything about Ekomi. I don't know anything about Asujo. But the fact that they're two different names, gives me a little glimmer of hope that maybe we actually have an interest in either of those two players. But when you've got Nelson Diosa, who've been linked to time and time again, Victor Nelson, never heard of him being offered to the club. I don't know. Would West Ham United accept a player being offered? Why is he being offered? What's going on there? And then Reece Nelson, like I said, apparently some reports are saying he's got a medical booked for Tuesday. And then you've got the caveat. We haven't agreed to the deal. We've agreed to the deal, but not agreed it just yet, just in case we find someone else. Well, you either do it or you don't. Okay, let's scroll down. Let's get more comments in. You can see I'm a bit angry today, can't you? I'm edgy. I'm edgy. I'm edgy today. I think I can't get the Saturday game out of my mind. I just hope we put in a much better performance against Southampton. I'm going to talk about maybe a team that we should play tomorrow night. But yeah, I think I'm also edgy because you keep hearing so many conflicting stories about the ownership, about the shares, about Kretinsky, about Staveley, about our transfers. I started off the show tonight, apparently, that the latest story is that it's Koppen and Nuno who are, sort of like going slow on transfers, and you see here and there's so many people to blame for this, that, or the other, or so many reasons that just don't seem to have a lot of I don't know, a lot of validity behind some of the claims that are being made, and then of course you've got fans that are saying that Sullivan is still in charge, and fans are saying Kretinsky has let the team down, and then other fans saying it's Staveley and Gold's fault. It's such a bit of a head fuck really at the moment, isn't it? When all we should be really concentrating on, what we should have concentrated on, is getting this squad together to give us a valid chance of getting out of this league. Look, we're only 2 games in. Someone put a stat out about the relegated clubs in the Championship, where the first 5 games, they lose 2, they draw 2, they lose 1, or lose 2, lose 2, draw 2, and win 1, or lose 2, win 2, and draw 1, something like that. Quite a low stat. No teams really have gone 1 or 5, or 1-5 and drawn 1, or anything like that. Clubs, and that makes sense. When I look at it and I think, that kind of makes sense. We're in a new league. We still haven't got our squad sorted out, so there are going to be 1 or 2 dodgy results, and then of course, you've got to look at Nuno and ask yourself, is he, as people have just suggested in the chat, is he the right man to get West Ham United out of this league? Can he win his promotion, or will his tactics really kill it all? So that's a more valid pointer than anything else at this moment in time. And I did say I will judge Nuno once we've got a bigger squad in place, and we're getting there, but we're nowhere near where we need at the moment. How far behind am I? Not far. I can see us sorting out the board. I can't see us sorting out the board for a couple. It will have to be sorted out by the end of September, beginning of October, because that's when the preemption process closes. So we have to wait until January, which would be too late for this season. That's possible. Andres, Galispera to you. I think we can afford to drop 30 points, so that I think Nuno will be gone if he drops to. I think we can afford to drop 30 points. So I think Nuno would be gone if he drops 15 points. 15 points. I think you meant there. Steve, good evening to you. Assuming the shares wrangle will be over by the new year, then perhaps the January window will be a better gauge of where this club. It has to be over. There's got to be a much clearer guidance by the beginning of October, end of September, beginning of October. We will know what the preemption process will tell us. Zeno, apparently we've done a deal, but are exploring other targets before we execute the deal. We've done a deal, but we haven't done a deal. We're exploring other targets. How does that look to the player himself? Good evening, Peter. You thought I'd what, mate? Come on, spit it out. Michael, there may be hope that we can keep in touching distance to the promotion places and strengthen in January by getting a change of manager. Yeah. I buy that. Otter. I'm with you on the cup. I want to win every game possible. We need to find form, and you know that by playing games. Absolutely, playing and winning. Peter, I thought you shut the members down earlier this year. I did. But thank you, people who become a member. I do repeat. I'm not doing any member shows anymore. Certainly not planning to. High Tech. Noble is very quiet behind the scenes. He is. I don't know what's going on there. I genuinely don't. Glenn, how is having a break apparently? So the last place he will come to us is this shit show of a club. Zeno, still, people believe he's done nothing for us. Bought in recruitment people. 2 of them also flew Bowen out to Prague and done other things. He has. You know, why would he fly Jared Bowen out? I'm going to say this outright. I believe that Kretinsky had every plan to invest in this football club. I think it's thrown it all out of kilter because of what's happened with the shares issue. I really do. Randy, Michael, the unknown is if Nuno is sacked. What profile of managers would target? Also, we pay compensation, or we continue to still do the same thing. Look for free choices. We don't know. With Sullivan not being running the club, we don't know. Michael Kretinsky sold the 2% to his mate, so he would buy 49% of shares. So him and his mate got 51% of the shares. Otter. It's hard for me to take a director of football seriously until they make their first manager hire. For me, this window is a bit of a mulligan since the manager precedes Koppen. Yeah, fair. That Marky, Oak Bank Road car park. Oak Bank Road car park. Oak Bank Road car park. Sorry, people. Oh, I know. I've done it late, but I know what I need to do. Road car. Thank you, mate. Right, I've got to do shout outs, and I should have done them right at the start. So going back, this was at the Portsmouth game. Mitch at the Premier Inn, who said hello to me, took a photo with me and his wife, etc. Isaac, when we were coming into the turnstiles during the Portsmouth game. Robert Banks and Jackie, good evening to you. Sean and the Bobby Morlow, who said hello, and Danny outside the stadium. Gary at Burnley, thank you for saying hello when I was at the Burnley game. Adam from Lincoln, who I met on Saturday, as well as Richard in the Bobby Moore lower as well. I should have done those weeks ago. Mitch, Isaac, Robert, Jackie, Sean, Danny, Gary, Adam, and Richard. Again, hello all. Should have done that an hour and 51 minutes ago. So my apologies for not doing it earlier. Michael, if Kretinsky bought 51% of the shares, he'll be obligated by the rest of Sullivan's shares at inflated prices. Absolutely. John Jewell, good evening to you, mate. Round 2 of the preemption process will depend on the articles of association. No, it will depend on what the articles of association says. What I believe is that if anybody enters stage 1 of the preemption process, then they have a right to enter stage 2 if they decide to choose so. So they can, as someone said earlier on, they can either go into stage 1, buy what they want, and then go not interested in stage 2, or they can go into stage 1, buy what they're eligible for, and then go into stage 2 and say, right, I want to buy everything or buy whatever. The bit I don't know about, and which would be in the articles, is how much would they be obligated to buy in stage 2. So if you buy in stage 1, you've got the option to go into stage 2. You don't have to enter it, but you've got the option to. Stephen, good evening to you. Saints 2-1, Watford 3-1. Then West Ham will be out of the cup and bottom of the league. Nuno will be on thin ice. You're optimistic. Good evening to you, Stephen. Ren, good evening to you. I think Sullivan turns up to smirk and say, I told you get rid of Nuno. If things go wrong, it was DK's decision to keep Nuno. Yeah. That's very possible. Mark, good evening to you. I may be a lone voice here, but I think we have had an excellent transfer window so far. 120 million net generated and some excellent signings, but still work to do. I like the players we've signed. I actually haven't got a problem with them, to be quite honest with you. I think Veltman is an astute signing for our defence. Absolutely. I think Solomon, I think will become a very good player for us once we settle in. I think Piero as well, and Engels. He had a poor game, but I think he'll settle and get better. I agree with you. I think we've done, for the players we've brought in, I think we've done all right. But we absolutely, as you say, I think we need more. Absolutely. David. Sullivan was feeling his way back in with the bodyguard sitting next to him for the Portsmouth game. He obviously now feels emboldened to have Pixton sitting next to him. It's not a good look. I totally agree. Victor. Staveley doesn't buy football clubs. She has no money. Said it. I said it, same thing. She puts together consortiums, absolutely, to buy clubs. When she's done, then she moves on. Like Newcastle, she doesn't run football clubs. That wasn't me saying it. That was Victor saying it. Marky, and I agree with him. Marky, let's remember that this defence got us relegated. You're still surprised they're still shit. Will get us relegated again. We won't get relegated again, but if we don't improve, I absolutely agree, we're not going to do well. Peter, good evening to you. Charlton fans are all saying they had an amazing day on Saturday. Fair enough. We could end up a proper laughing stock this season. Of course they had an amazing day. They beat us on our own ground. And they deserve to win as well. JM, good evening to you. We couldn't even play Premier League football in the Premier League, so it's not going to work in the Championship. I agree. I agree with you there as well. Colin, Stel has, far as I know, Kretinsky and Staveley have worked together on something in the past, but she has upset Kretinsky now. I don't think they have, but I'm going to look into that now. You're going to make me look into that, aren't you now? Sai, good evening to you. Evening, bit late, been watching Top Gear. Top Gear. You're watching Top Gear over this show. I'll see you tomorrow evening, mate. Hammer. On stability and suitability and funding is where the IFR look at first. Suitability, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Zeno. Daniel's been with us 5 years, not made any money. Not made any money while being an investor in the club. He was kept silent. Sullivan stepped down. Until Sullivan stepped down, we'll steady his ship, just be patient. I think he has made money. I think when we were riding high, he has made money. Absolutely. But yeah, he's been a minority shareholder until now. Si, we could move to Brentwood. That's apparently part of Newham. Is it? Brentwood, is that part of Newham? Didn't know that. Hammerette. This is what I don't get. With the history, the sentence for immoral earnings, yet Sullivan was allowed to own a football. Unfortunately, different times, different days, different stages, different everything back then. Unfortunately, Hammerette. John, watching West Ham is like why I dumped my ex-wife. The absolutely nothing happens in around the box. Zero penetration. Hammer. Reuben Brothers own Russian Steel, I believe. I don't know what they own. But they are ones that apparently are linked with this consortium. Andrew, we are a vehicle to a bigger end game with Staveley. Not saying she would do a bad owner, but this all boils down to making a lot of money via West Ham United. Yeah, this is a shooing. Ross, good evening to you. Yeah, everyone was happy when Sullivan stepped down, but is the new board any better? Not from what I see. I guess time will tell. Kansas, Si, Brentwood is nowhere near. See, I don't know. I did question it. Si, are you sure, mate? I'm gonna have to ask him when I see him at Southampton tomorrow night. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got here? Zeno, we could have been further along if it wasn't for that. It wasn't good time moved, and to me tells me that a plan was all messed up because of the. Yeah, I think the timing, the Staveley timing was piss poor, really, really awful. Rend, was the money DK was going to put in to be a director's loan? Doesn't that just reduce the player's purchasing power as it's not money from an organic growth? That I don't know. But maybe what would have happened is Kretinsky was going to put money. You could use that to pay off the loans or pay off our debt, etc., and then have money spare from organic growth to buy players. I think you're going to make me look into that now as well. Hammer, just look at the shareholder that was at Newcastle. She had 10%, Reuben Brothers 10%, and the Saudis bought most of the rest. And then they bought, I don't know if Reuben Brothers is still there, but she's definitely been bought out. Peter, people keep talking about the lands. Was there a bit more to that, Peter? All tackled up. Good evening to you, mate. Really want to be a positive season on and off, but being honest, it looks like an absolute shambles on and off the field. Let's hope it changes, but I don't know. These players that don't want to play are like mosquitoes you can't get rid of, sucking blood wages to increase the wage bill. Robin, I agree. Ford's old football pitches in Basildon were earmarked way back in the early Bond scheme as a scare story for the fans to buy into the scheme. A few years later, West Ham bought Ford's football Rush Green. Okay, interesting that. Hammerette, but would Rush Green be able to be big enough for a football stadium? Maybe. Respected Fulkrug for taking a wage cut to move, albeit his own benefit, but at least he did not want to sit on our bench earning money for nothing. Absolutely. Ralph, would you want to play for this dog shite manager? It's bad enough to watch. Chip, no one will buy our dross until Chelsea have cleared out their back catalogue of players. Then they move on. Harry, people, like I said earlier in the show, if you're new to the channel, that QR code takes you to the subscription box. You can become a subscriber at no charge. And if you're enjoying this, please do hit the like button. Please do. Steve. The only reason Alvarez would go to Olympiacos is to get an early knock out in the Champions League. The Championship is far stronger than the Greek First Division. Yeah, it's an easy one for him. Andrew, Nuno should have been sacked after the Newcastle surrender. We missed a crucial opportunity to get the right manager for the start of this season. Kansas, maybe the only way we can get rid of some players, maybe a swap deal plus cash. Yeah, it's possible. Ren, yes, payback with interest, less revenue if West Ham stay in the Championship, meaning how does the club get new players? Well, like I said, if the money's being used to pay off debt rather than buying players, because you've got to have organic income for that, maybe it's paying off debt in order to allow the funds that we've got from our transfers to buy players. Zeno, can never have been a West Ham fan if you're willing to move to another team. Supporting West Ham have never been about glory all the time. It's never been about glory, full stop. We're never about glory, are we? Razor. I get your point about Stabley's backers, but she did promise a stadium to be bought and made better, plus training ground, so should be okay. She didn't say where. She said, I'll build you a stadium. She didn't say where. She said, I'll build you a stadium. No way must we leave the East End. Absolutely. I think, Apache, the way forward for Stabley to assuage people's fears is to make a movie, make a movie, meet the backers. It's getting into silly hour, isn't it? Mark, McKeary, good evening to you. Zeno, you're right. They should possibly try to get Elliott, and it's amazing how much better Mavs was when paired with Disasi. West Ham probably should have offered to buy him outright. We have offered to buy him outright. We've actually offered to buy him outright, but he was thinking about it. Martin, keep at it, Martin. Keep at it. You know, I'm almost there. Back. I will be back when we win and win convincingly. Let's scroll down because you want to go to bed and I want to go to bed. So I'm nearly there. Andrew, Reece Nelson is such a predictable, unimaginative, uninspiring West Ham signing. Do I stick my neck out and say, I bet we don't sign him? Do I do that? I bet we don't sign him. Smokey, still bring your boots. You're playing against Watford. Not at my age, mate. Robin, we should be looking at Championship players. They will be ready to go straight into the team. Todd Cantwell, Blackburn's captain and playmaker for starters. I take their right back as well. I agree. And I know we'd have a problem that we'll end up building a Championship team. And if we get promoted, that we'll have a problem at the end of the season to have to rebuild a squad again. But let's get there first. Zeno. Before Daniel took over, Nobes' son was removed from the academy. Now his son's back in there and he's back at the club. As under Sullivan, he ended up walking away and taking a break from the club. I didn't know that. Who else have we got here? West Ham, free signings and loans is probably what we'll end up with. I don't mind if they're the right ones. Ollie, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Good morning. No news is good news regarding takeover. Well, we'll hear about that later this month. Johnny, in the 50s and 60s, London Borough of Newham built a housing estate, often called East Ham Estate or East Ham Crescent, in Brentwood to rehouse displaced London residents. Is it still part of Brentwood, though? Is it still part of Newham, though? Might have been then. You see, you get all these changes, don't you? Don't know. Peter. No, Amanda Stabley, Daniel Krasinski have not worked together previously. Instead, they're currently locked in a boardroom and ownership battle for control of West Ham. I didn't think they had worked together previously. Zeno, Michael, this is what I've been saying. That's her plan. Anyway, move us out and build that land up. Yeah, it can do. Nothing to stop them. Jake, maybe one day this football club will be run properly. Until then, we just have to suffer the bad times so we can appreciate the good times even more. Go to bed. Everyone go to bed. No more transfer business tonight. Go to bed. Still, if we have to keep Nuno, can someone please go and beg Paco to come back? I don't know if he's got himself a job, but if he hasn't, then why not? Zeno, I think there's room for Pablo and Piero play behind one another, but I prefer Tati as a 10. Absolutely. And Pablo in midfield. Yeah. That's it. 2 hours done. Thank you all so much. As usual, thank you all so much. Thank you for staying with me into almost the next day. What time is it? It's I'm still not the next day. Thank you all so much. Really, really appreciate it. We've done 2 hours and talked these issues to death, really. And Andrew, death by 1,000 cuts. There you go. So thank you all very much. You know what I didn't? You know what I didn't do? That's the team I think might go out tomorrow against Southampton. I think Areola needs to be in goal. I think I would put Myers as left back. I'll put Veltman in. If Dinos is okay, then I'll put him in alongside Veltman. Orford, I think, deserves to keep his place. I want Makuasu. It ain't Makuasu. It's Musaka. Oh, fucking hell. You know who I mean. The guy that we've signed from Man City starts with an M. Mukasa, thank God for that. I think I will put Mukasa in along Engels, etc. Put Pira up front. Give Tati a rest, who really looks like he wants to get sent off. You know, so that's the team I put out. Areola, who I think should be our number one keeper. Orford in the middle, Engels and Mukasa as our attacking midfielders. Bowen and Solomon and Piro up front. 2-0 win. No, it won't. 3-1 win tomorrow night for West Ham United. Yeah, thank you, Mukasa. Really appreciate it. I'm knackered. You're knackered listening to me. Really appreciate it. Thanks for all the comments as usual. Oh, I'll be back. I'll be doing a post-match review. Probably in the car. Well, not while I'm driving, but in the car on my way back from Southampton. So look out for that. It'll be quite late, so look out for that. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for all your comments. Thank you for becoming a subscriber. See you all soon.